on that mandate and was supposed to be pretty much center or slightly left of center. And by the end, he was licking Bush's, I don't know, spittle for all it's worth. A lot of the people over here felt very betrayed by him. So there is that worry, there is that fear that is the entire political system just so corrupt and so diseased that it can't produce anyone really honest, that anyone who gets to power within the system by default ends up being a scumbag, because that's the only kind of people who can get into positions of power. And so that remains to be seen. I'm optimistic, but I'm still holding my cards to my chest before I pronounce a verdict.
I see. That's probably a good policy, and I'm sure there are many people out there, especially in the international community, who feel the same way. So, getting back to StarCraft, 2009 does seem to be a year for new beginnings. We have Boxer coming out of the Air Force, and we have Savior, who promised late last year that he would destroy everyone in 2009. I know that you are especially passionate about Savior and his particular track record in the Korean pro gaming scene. What are your thoughts on how he'll do this year?
All this stuff is just stuff of dreams for any StarCraft fan, and I'm just your regular StarCraft fan. Anyone who enjoys it and follows StarCraft, I'm sure, is looking forward to Boxer being able to return full-time to his StarCraft, and looking forward to Savior returning into competition, and looking forward to the revival of that rivalry between Bisu and Savior, because Bisu's got to be hurting, and if he gets another chance, another shot at Savior in this season's MSL, boy, that's going to be some StarCraft, and that's something that it just gets me exciting thinking about it, almost salivating, really. But at the same time, people like Savior, they don't make statements unless they intend to carry them out, so I personally have a lot of confidence and a lot of faith in Savior and in his abilities, but StarCraft is such an unpredictable game. Something as simple as scouting in the wrong direction, which happens all the time, could be enough to lose you a game of StarCraft and dump you out of the competition. It's just such an inherently complex and beautiful game. There's just so many variables and variations of strategy and luck. A person might rush. You might just by pure chance have built the exact counter to your opponent's strategy. So you could argue you could have players playing really, really well and doing good and still losing, and there are no second chances in StarCraft. StarCraft is a very cruel and unforgiving mistress. But at the same time, there's a reason why certain players are champions. There's a reason why Boxer was a champion, why Savior is a champion, why people like Nada, July, I can go on with the list, Bisu. There's a reason why these guys are champions. That's because they have something special. And Savior, I think God made Savior in anticipation of the release of StarCraft. I think Savior was built by God purely to play StarCraft. And so that's why he's a Jesus Zerg, and I think that's why he is going to dominate this year. And it's about that hunger, and Savior, you can see it in his eyes, he's focused. He's back to that kind of zone where he just will not tolerate the idea of anyone beating him in a game of StarCraft. He just won't tolerate it. He just won't have it. And he's one of the few people who has the ability to put that sort of mental fortitude into reality, to shape the world around him through his strength and through his actions. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm optimistic, just a bit.
Just a little bit. It's very interesting to me that when you get started on the topic of Savior, you become so optimistic and I don't know, certain in your beliefs, when it seems like even in this conversation you've given us sort of both sides of the story in different scenarios. You don't see a conflict between your wholehearted admiration of Savior and your more nuanced views on other issues, given that you don't know Savior personally, you've only seen how he plays in Korean VODs. You don't see a conflict in that?
I don't know, maybe there is a conflict, but maybe that's what makes it more exciting. The thing about StarCraft is you put everything of yourself into it. StarCraft is a game that it's not just a game of strategy. I think it's a game of personality as well, and you can see that. You can see the way Savior controls his game, or in July's just unbridled aggression. You can see it in the way Bisu is so methodical and merciless. You can see it in the way Reach is scared of no one. And you can see the personalities of the players coming through in the way that they play StarCraft, because StarCraft, it's like an extension of yourself. So to that extent, I don't think I'm being unfair. Even though I guess people could argue that it would bias my commentary, I hope that I'm objective enough to be able to enjoy a good game of StarCraft and comment on its merits and comment on the play without necessarily allowing my own personal feelings to cloud my judgment or my opinion. That being said, there's a reason why the word fan derives from the word fanatic. Fanaticism by its very nature is not rational. Why do people support Manchester United when they live in America or in India or anywhere else in the world? They've never been to Manchester. They've never met a single player from the club. They've probably never even watched a game live in the stadium, and yet it's the stuff of life or death to them. That's fanboyism. That's fanaticism, and it's just, sometimes we attach ourselves emotionally to something. It's like an evolutionary code that's hardwired into us that forces us to ignore all our logic and just become really, really passionate about something. And I guess for me that's StarCraft and Savior, among other things. And it's not something that I can really explain.
All right, duly noted. That was an excellent explanation of and description of fanboyism. So, before we wrap up, there's also another question on the minds of many of your viewers. A while ago, you co-commentated a StarCraft game, Boxer vs. Odin, with Mrs. Klazart, your wife. And even though she isn't a StarCraft commentator and is probably not very interested in StarCraft or doesn't play StarCraft at all, she had some surprisingly good insights, and it was very entertaining, and the commentary itself has many fans. So the question is, are you ever going to do a co-commentary with Mrs. Klazart again?
I'd like to, but I'd like to get her, but it's very difficult to persuade her. And if I did manage to persuade her, I'd have to pay her back, in, I don't know, 100,000 hours of Klazart sex. And it would just leave me so exhausted that I probably wouldn't be able to participate in the commentary anyway. So, she doesn't come cheap. But hopefully, I don't know. We'll see.
Yes, 100,000 hours of Klazart sex does sound like it would be very exhausting. And if you did make that sacrifice for the community, I'm sure everyone would appreciate it tremendously. Maybe send you some, I don't know, energy snacks or Red Bull or something to help get you through it.
Red Bull is like water to me. Red Bull is like water to me, so that wouldn't work.
I guess someone...
Yeah, it would probably have to be... It would probably have to be a few thousand kilos of cocaine shot intravenously into my arm. That would probably do it. Not that I'm condoning drug use, guys.
Another lovely paradox from Klazart, the doctor condoning drug use.
Say no, kids.
And following the Nancy Reagan mold. Very interesting, Klazart. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I hope to have you here again, and also hope to hear more of your commentaries. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the fans as a farewell? Any teasers or any news of things to come?
No, nothing really, other than what I've already mentioned. Apart from, well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who does PM me or leave a comment on the videos. I know I don't respond pretty much all of the time, but I do read them, and I do want to thank you guys for sending them. But I did get a very disturbing PM from someone after my last commentary, to the effect of saying that they wanted to sign up to go and fight the war in the Middle East. And I just wanted to say, I don't think I have ever advocated violence realistically as a solution to problems, because I don't believe in violence as a solution to any of our of the world's problems. And I know I said stuff about the Israel-Palestinian issue, but I don't want you guys to misinterpret what I said on it, because it is a hugely complex issue. And I guess when you're trying to distill it down to a single soundbite in a sentence, you're bound to leave it open to speculation and misunderstanding. But for anyone who was left confused by that, I just want to say, the Israelis, their hands are as dirty as anyone's in this mess. But so just keep that in mind. And the guy who said he was going to sign up to the military, I think it's a noble concept, but at the same time, you're just signing up to be used by someone else for their own gain. And that's not something I believe in.
Thank you very much for clearing that up, and here's to hoping that the distilled sound bites from this interview will also not be misinterpreted too badly. And again, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Good luck with your show.
And that's our show for today. Please come back in 2 weeks to see what else I have in store for you. I have a lot of ideas and I want to talk to a lot of people, and of course I'd love to get feedback from you, the audience, on what you want to hear. Thanks very much again to Omi for the wonderful Terran Battle theme music. Thank you to our guest, Clazart, and thank you to SC2GG for hosting the audio-only version of this podcast. Visit sc2gg.com for a great StarCraft community. This has been a presentation of Voice of Esports. Forever yours, Peanut.